Hey again, friends. Can I tell you something that I finally figured out after almost 30 years of marriage? My husband and I don't actually live in the same house. I know, that sounds ridiculous, but obviously we do. We have the same address, we have the same driveway, we have the same flower beds, but we don't see the same house. And I realized that when we got home last week from a wonderful trip. And we pulled into the driveway, and before I even walked inside, I was already exhausted. Just not physically, but mentally, because I was already making the mental list of all the work that needed to be done. That grass growing through the cracks in the driveway, the shutter that's loose, the weeds overtaking everything, the poison ivy climbing the front steps, the vines that are swallowing these azaleas out here, the gravel that's just disappearing under the weeds, the deck that needs pressure washing, the blueberries that are just begging to be picked that the birds can't even access because we have a net over it, and I feel so guilty if they go bad and the birds don't even get any. And we've got trees back here that need to come down that are dead, and it just felt like one giant to-do list before we ever even got out of the car. And then I looked at Chris, and he just walks inside, home, and I don't think he noticed any of it. Now, before you think that I'm picking on him, let me tell you something. He is great at project management. He is incredibly organized at work, and he can manage multi-million-dollar projects, schedules, budgets, deadlines. He thinks about efficiency all day long, and even here he does too. If you walked into his office, it is neat as a pin. His computer desktop, every folder is exactly where it belongs. Everything's labeled. Everything has a system. Everything's got their sub-labels. And honestly, it's beautiful. And I'm jealous. My office, it looks like a tornado hit it. Papers, books, notebooks, ideas, projects. My computer desktop is just as bad. It looks exactly like my office. Files everywhere, random screenshots, documents that I swear I'll organize someday. You know, that's me. To me, though, visual peace matters, and to him, functional efficiency matters. He isn't disorganized, but I am. There's another part of this story, too. Years ago, Chris would have been out here fixing the shutter himself. He'd be pressure washing the deck, climbing the ladders. We'd be building the built-in bookshelves ourselves, tackling one project after another. But life changes, and years of back problems and neck problems, surgery, PRP treatments, physical therapy, rehab, steroid shots, all of those things have changed what he's physically able to do. And that's part of getting older too. Sometimes it's not the house that changes, sometimes it's us. And part of midlife is learning to accept that some jobs now belong to someone else. And it's not because we're lazy, but because we're trying to be wise and protect his body. And that's another reason to be grateful and just pick up the phone and call a professional for help. But we're organized at home in completely different ways. If the dog spray is convenient, he's happy. If the dog's itch powder is within arm's reach, perfect. And if everything that he uses all the time is sitting out where he can grab it, then that makes sense to him. Me, it just makes me twitch. I want the dog spray in the designated cabinet, the itch powder in the designated cabinet, everything put away. And now here's the funny part, is you open the cabinet door and it's a disaster. Stuff is crammed in there, it's bulging, and you practically need a crowbar to get it shut. But from the outside, it looks all peaceful. And so Chris is exactly the opposite. He'd rather have the room a little bit cluttered and the cabinet be beautifully organized. I'd rather have the cabinet overflowing and the room look calm. And neither one of us is wrong. We're just organized on different axes. He organizes for function, and I organize for visual peace and aesthetics. He asks, can I reach it? And I ask, can I see it? And honestly, neither one of us understands the other in that regard. And I'll say, like, why is this sitting out on the counter? And he'll say, because I use it every day. And then he'll ask, why is this cabinet so full? I can't even get in there. Things just fall out of it. And I'll say, because nobody has to look at it. And we've had this conversation more than once. But here's what I've been thinking about lately. That maybe it isn't about cabinets, and maybe it's about how we all experience life. Some people walk into a room and they immediately see efficiency, and others see beauty, others see possibilities, others see problems. I walked into my driveway and I didn't even see my home anymore. I saw maintenance, I saw work, I saw everything that wasn't finished. And maybe that's what overwhelm does. It doesn't just fill up our calendars, it changes our vision. And it trains us to notice what's undone before we notice what's beautiful. Now, the weeds really do need pulling. The poison ivy really does need to be eradicated. The shutter does need fixing. And I'm not pretending that those things aren't real. But that's not the whole story. Because that same driveway leads to a home that we have loved for almost 2 decades. And those same blueberry bushes are just loaded with fruit. Those mature trees out here, they have shaded our family for years. And this screen porch has held hundreds of conversations and guests. And maybe I've focused on maintaining this place, and it's just become such a focus that I've just stopped appreciating it. I meant to pick a ripe tomato before I left last week, and I forgot, and it rotted. And I don't know if you're like this, but my mind says, see, I can't even manage that. I've wasted it. And sometimes that's true, and sometimes it isn't. But here's the danger. If every rotten tomato becomes evidence that you've got to manage everything, you'll end up confirming that belief every time something slips through the cracks. And maybe before I make my next to-do list, I just need to pause and say thank you. Thank you for a home. Thank you for a yard. Thank you for blueberries. And thank you for a husband that doesn't lose sleep over weeds and is just happy to be home. And maybe I need a little bit of his perspective. And maybe every once in a while, he could use a little bit of mine. Because marriage isn't about deciding who's right. It's about realizing that you're not looking through the same lens. You're just loving the same home and the same people in it, just in different ways. Gratitude doesn't erase the work. That's not reality, but it does change the order. First gratitude, then stewardship. And it's not because there's less to do, but because I finally can see clearly again. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.